Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi tahirin. We are continuing our brief lectures on spirituality and akhlaqi points entitled The Path of the Self to the Real. And in the last lesson, I was saying that we have to love Allah the Exalted. Loving Allah the Exalted is the worship of the free people, those who free themselves from the shackles of sin and transgressions. So we we have to worship Allah with love of Allah the Exalted. So then I said we have to put our whole self into it. I alluded to this kind of idea that we have to worship Allah with ourself, and we have to purify ourselves. I quoted from Surah Ash-Shams. We have to put our love into worship of Allah the Exalted. What is our motive for worshiping Allah the Exalted? Take it up a higher level. Take it up above worshiping just merely out of fear. Let it be a fear born out of love. Take it above worshiping just for reward. Make it be a seeking the reward of Allah the Exalted, of love of Allah the Exalted. So do it for a higher reason. Yes, if you do it strictly out of fear, that's good. If you do it out of seeking reward, yes, Allah uses these things in the Quran. But there's a higher level that you can achieve as a mu'min. You can achieve a higher level. You can worship Allah out of love for Him, the Exalted. So we have to worship Allah with love. And we have to purify ourselves and put ourself into worshiping Allah. And we have to worship Allah with all of our ability. Allah the Exalted has bestowed on us abilities to do certain things, abilities to work in certain directions. So take that ability, take the things that Allah the Exalted has bestowed upon us, which are big blessings, and use them in the direction of good. Use them in the direction of obedience to Allah the Exalted. So we must put our determination and our efforts into obedience to Allah the Exalted. So we have this thing we discuss in maybe many different areas of Islamic studies. This topic will come up in theology when we're talking about the topics of Adala. It'll come up in akhlaq when we're talking about some of the features of the soul and how to self-improve. This topic is called ikhtiyar, the topic of ikhtiyar. Ikhtiyar means the ability to make a choice. Ability to make a choice between doing this thing or that thing. Allah the Exalted has put in us this ability, this feature in our souls, that when we're faced with doing a thing or saying a thing, we have to make the choice between doing this or doing that, saying this or saying that. This is in line with the purpose of human creation. I haven't brought it here in these lessons, but the purpose of human creation, when you put the ayats together of the Holy Quran, one could say it is to achieve the mercy of Allah the Exalted. And to achieve that mercy of Allah the Exalted, we're being tested to see which one of us is best in deeds. We are having to worship and serve Allah the Exalted. This is something that we do out of making the choice to do the right things. So Allah the Exalted has sent guidance to humanity to tell them and warn them that if you do the wrong things, if you make the wrong choice, there is something to fear. And if you make the right choice, there is something to gain, something good for you. So Allah the Exalted has sent guidance, the manual for how to use that ikhtiyar to succeed the test. That's authentic Islam. Authentic Islam. So this ability in human beings called ikhtiyar to choose this or that is a very important feature for human beings. Allah the Exalted has placed this in us, and we are tested with how we use it. We are accountable for how we use it. So let us look at this noble verse of the Holy Quran, Surah 16:97. Man amila salihan min dhakarin aw untha. Whoever works righteous deeds, whoever works righteousness, amila saliha, whoever works righteous deeds, min dhakarin aw untha. Dhakar is males and untha is female. So whoever works righteousness, the transinterpretation of Rav Salih, righteousness, from male or female. Wahuwa mu'minun, and he is a believer. We shall, they transinterpret it as, we shall revive him with a good life. So we will certainly enliven him with hayatan tayyiba, with the good life. And pay them and reward them, their reward, ajarahum, with the best of what they used to do. Makano ya'malun. So this verse of the Holy Quran is very, very important verse. You should take some time and ponder on it. You should take some time and reflect on it. You could take some different things from this noble ayat of the Holy Quran. Allah the Exalted has created men and women. No matter which of the two genders you are, both have an equal opportunity to obtain the ranks of spirituality, to obtain ranks of spirituality, to achieve spiritual felicity. So you can argue that as per the opportunity to achieve felicity, both men and women here have equality. They have equal opportunity to obtain felicity with Allah the Exalted. Now they have to ascend ranks. According to what they do, they will be rewarded. According to what they do, they will get hayatul tayyiba. They will get a good life as long as they are believers. Now there's discussion, other discussions that we have in other places, but here we're talking about the mu'minin. So men and women both have an equal opportunity here. They both must obey Allah the Exalted and not disobey Allah the Exalted. Sometimes, though, the things in which they are ordered to do, Allah is the one who legislated the commands, told them what to do, what not to do. Like He's told women that when they get their haid, they don't pray and they don't fast. And He hasn't given that exemption to men. Men don't have that exemption. They're abstaining and they're obeying Allah. There is obedience to Allah the Exalted. Whereas if a man did that, he would be disobeying Allah the Exalted. So each side have sometimes some different commands and different prohibitions and different allowances, and different responsibilities. So they both must obey Allah the Exalted and avoid the disobedience of Allah the Exalted. Sometimes the things in which they must obey, they may differ, of course. And most of the time, though, they are common. They're common things to both male and female. Both male and female have the obligation of salah. Both male and female have the obligation of saum. Both male and female, when the conditions are there, have the obligation of hajj. All these things. There's many areas where they have equal responsibility to do. But there's some areas where they differ. And Allah is the one who legislates the authentic Islam. So, okay. Allah knows men, knows women. He's created them. Who knows them better other than Allah the Exalted? No one. So sometimes things may be differing. And most of the time, there's common things. But for each of these, for each male and female, this is the road of spiritual success for them. This is the road to achievement of felicity toward Allah the Exalted. Now, so this verse, we could take some lessons from it. We could take some ideas from it. Righteousness, salih deeds, no matter if it's male or female doing it, and they are a believer, the consequences is enlivening that person with the good life, hayat tayyibah, and rewarding them for what they used to do. So we both genders stand at the forefront of action and belief. They stand at the threshold of moving forward on the line of Islam and the achievement of felicity and rahmah of Allah the Exalted, mercy of Allah the Exalted. Both sides should understand each other. Both sides should understand that Allah the Exalted has legislated their things that He has willed for them to be obedient to Him through and to achieve felicity for them. And that is the way it is. We find in Surah 61, ayat 2 and 3 of the Holy Quran. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu lima taquluna ma la taf'alun. O you who believe, why do you say what you do not do? Why do you say what you do not do? Kabura maktan inda Allahi an taqulu ma la taf'alun. It is abhorred to Allah that you should say what you do not do. That you should say what you do not do. We are saying, Anna Muslim, Anna min Muslimin. We are Muslims. Muslim in its literal definition means one who submits to Allah the Exalted. We say, Anna Muslim. What religion are you? Anna Muslim. We're saying we are submitting to Allah the Exalted. We say Islam is our deen. We are saying Iyyaka na'budu 10 times in your wajib salah every day, at least. You recite Surah Al-Hamd. Surah Al-Hamd says Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. Iyyaka na'budu. You alone we worship? Or do we worship our nafs? Do we worship someone else's nafs? Do we worship another creation? Pay attention. Why are you doing things? in the most subtlest things, you could be doing some kind of hidden shirk. Why are we doing this? Or no? Is that thing against the commands of Allah the Exalted? Is that thing against the commands of Allah the Exalted or not? So we are saying these things, but do we do? Do we act? Do we obey Allah the Exalted? Ask ourselves. And of course, Allah the Exalted is not like humans, it's this maktan, abhorred or greatly outrageous. This has a theological discussion. Allah is exalted. This is a metaphor for something. So we must realize then the realization of Allah the Exalted and rein in our minds and thoughts, our sayings and our actions. Direct them toward Allah the Exalted. Submit to Allah the Exalted. There is peace in submission. You want your soul to be at peace. You want to achieve felicity inside. Real peace, real happiness is through total submission of your entire being to Allah the Exalted. So some advices on, because what I was talking about in a couple lessons back, I was talking about yaksa, a wakefulness from heedlessness. So some advices on how to stay awake, inshallah, is that reminders you have to seek out reminders of Allah the Exalted and of the hereafter. That can be very useful. So like you could intend to go and visit the graveyard to be reminded of Allah the Exalted, reminded of where you're going. So do it out of obedience to Allah, out of wanting dhikr of Allah the Exalted. You can observe different things. You could read Quran. You could do things to remind you about Allah the Exalted and the hereafter, to scrub off the rust from your soul. So make it a daily routine to remember Allah the Exalted, to remind yourself of Allah the Exalted. Feel that remembrance in yourself. Ponder on it. Take meaning to it. Put real intention in it. Sincerity to it. Second thing is seek guidance from Allah the Exalted and make it a habit to read 10 ayats a day. If you're not reading 10 ayats a day, make it a habit to read 10 ayats of the Holy Quran a day, 10 verses of the Holy Quran a day, and think and ponder deeply upon those noble ayats. Think and deeply ponder upon them. So next time, inshallah, I'm going to start discussing how to worship with joy and humility, inshallah. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.